This little plastic figurine of a Royal Canadian Mounted Police Officer is one of my favorite objects in our exhibit. It tells many stories about immigration to Canada. This little guy was presented to the Sejani family in 1972 when they arrived in Montreal on September the 28th, 1972, as refugees from Uganda. They were fleeing the dictator Idi Amin, who had expelled every Asian in the country. And the Sejanis arrived in Canada after a long flight and many scary and challenging experiences. They were very exhausted, but happy to have arrived in Canada. Santa Sejani, her husband and 3 children arrived and were welcomed at the immigration facility in Montreal. And they were presented with winter coats. The staff were very kind and welcoming. And the children were presented with this little plastic figurine of an RCMP officer. They were a little puzzled by this object, which seemed so different from the toys they'd had in Uganda. But they understood it was an important national symbol, and they cherished this object. It was also a unique scene in the immigration facility that night, September the 28th, 1972, because there were televisions everywhere, black and white and color. People were glued to the TV screens, and then suddenly they erupted in cheers and cries of joy because Paul Henderson had just scored the winning goal in the famous Summit Series between Canada and Russia. The Sejanis were kind of perplexed. They'd never seen winter or snow or ice. They didn't know anything about ice hockey, but they could see all these happy people around them. And Shanta remembers that they were sort of their confusion but joy as discovering that they'd arrived in this pivotal moment in Canadian sort of popular culture. And it became an auspicious moment for the family. Shanta Sejani became a lifetime hockey fan, and they always saw this moment as a real kind of lucky time to become a Canadian citizen. That night all that happened. The little figurine they were presented also became a cherished item in the family. Shefali Sejani kept it, especially in the 1980s and 90s, regarded this object with sort of much interest as a famous Canadian multiculturalism case went through the courts. A Sikh man, Baltej Sikh Dillon, wanted to join the RCMP, but the RCMP didn't allow men to wear turbans. And he launched a challenge that was eventually successful, and he became an RCMP officer. And for Shefali, the little plastic figurine sort of symbolized Canada's capacity to accept newcomers, adapt sometimes in troubled ways to changes in ways of life. They're very much part of the Canadian immigration experience. So there you see in this little guy, all kinds of stories of refugees, of identity, of challenging the status quo, all stories which we tell in our new exhibit in Canada's Immigration Hall.